everybody. Welcome to Generation Gap. My name is Gretchen, and I'm joined by my co-host, Tom.
And I'm Tom, joined as always by my co-host, Gretchen.
And today we're getting together to talk about the 1938 Warner Brothers gangster film, Angels with Dirty Faces. So, this was directed by Michael Curtiz, starring James Cagney, Pat O'Brien, the Dead End Kids, Humphrey Bogart, with Ann Sheridan and George Bancroft. The film follows two inner-city kids who are caught stealing fountain pens. One of them is sent to a prison and ends up growing up in the system, while the other escapes and becomes a priest. The film mostly follows the two several years down the line, reunited after William Rocky Sullivan, played by James Cagney, is released from prison and is coming back to what's his.
Right. Exactly, yeah. $100,000.
That's a lot.
Pretty big sum of money, especially in 1938.
So,
and it is topical. It does take place in 1938.
Yep, it is.
I think it begins 1920. I think because of the reference, or 23,
something
reference
like that.
to Harding becoming or running for president.
What'd you think?
Well, this is one of my favorite films.
Okay.
It really is. In fact, it was one of my father's favorite films.
Really?
Might have been his ultimate favorite film. Which again, you talk about generation gaps, and it's one of my favorites. I used to enjoy just watching it with my father. He's 90. He'll be 90 this November, and he'll still ask me if I've ever seen it, and I've seen it many times with him. So, but yeah, there's not much I can say, about how it's just a great film. I thought it, and it transcends generations.
You think you saw it for the first time pretty early?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, with my father, and I didn't always enjoy. I was a restless kid, so I didn't always enjoy sitting and watching films. But this one had me. It was. Plus, there were some kids in it, so that was an appeal. And I thought just James Cagney was just great.
So I saw this for the first time this week.
Yeah, which is amazing. Yeah, but that's part of the generation gap. Yeah.
I was prepping for this. We decided last time we got together this was going to be our next episode, and I was like, I'll look into it. Like, obviously, I'm sure that I have like a reference of familiarity. I've never seen this. Not only that, up until this, I had never seen a James Cagney film. Wow. Which is terrible.
Yeah. Well, there'll be some more in your future, I hope.
Oh, yeah.
And I was so happy to hear that you liked it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because
you never know with the generation gap, too, just for whatever reason, it may not appeal to you. Some people just don't like black and white, period, I know that's not an issue with you, but for some it is.
Yeah.
But I just think it's such a great film. I think it reaches, doesn't matter. I think anybody can watch it. And the dialogue is great. The characters are all great. And I think you mentioned it's directed by Michael Curtiz, who was not really a character director. He didn't really delve that much into what makes him tick necessarily. But
he worked with a lot of people who are good at that, though.
Yeah. He wasn't really I guess I should say he's not really an actor's director. He didn't get along with a lot of people sort of famously, but the people still liked him. Because he did get great performances.
Michael Curtiz is a repeat offender on this show. Our pilot was Casablanca, also directed by him. Starring Humphrey Bogart, who is also in this film.
Yes, right. And totally different character too.
One of my top 5 actors of all time.
Yeah, he's great. And this one, you hate him. I didn't even remember how much I don't like him. He's just he's so sleazy.
I love watching him.
I know, I did too. Yeah. But he played it up perfectly. Yeah. He wasn't quite into his leading man roles yet.
But you could see he's got something. He's great.
Yeah. And he and Cagney always did. And I watch it and I scrutinize them. And I mentioned to you earlier that Cagney in this film is like a method actor. He looks so real. If you watch him as other actors have the spotlight in the scene, including Bogart or George Bancroft, or even Pat O'Brien, or even the Dead End Kids, he's moving. He's not just waiting for his next line. He's reacting to what they're saying. He's blinking. He's smirking. He's doing something. He's really acting. It makes it look like he's not acting. It really looks like he's in that moment. I think that's incredible.
Very visceral performance by James Cagney.
You kind of expect to see that in today's stars. But back then, I don't know. There's probably a handful. Betty Davis, I thought, was also really good at that. They just look so natural on screen. And Humphrey Bogart also.
James Cagney, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but in my research, I think he started on the stage.
He did, as a chorus girl.
Yes.
You heard that right, chorus girl. Yeah. He was a song and dance man.
But I think that does affect the transition from from stage onto the screen.
Yeah.
If you're used to having potential audience eyes on you while you're out on stage, it's important that you always look like you're doing something.
Yeah, true, right, and I think that's still today.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's still some actors today who started on stage or who sometimes started in film and then went to stage
Mm-hmm.
and probably got better.
Yeah.
Because they also, you have to learn to, not that they do it so much today, but back then, if you made a mistake on film or someone else made, you're going to keep going.
That was
You
expensive.
got to roll with it, right? Yeah. So, you were used to that from being in stage productions. You knew how to sort of ad lib and keep going, keep rolling with it.
So not only going into this, I had not seen the movie, so this is also one of the few films I've gone into where I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah. Which is so much better, I think.
Yeah. Usually I have a little bit of the films that we look at have usually left a little bit of a thumbprint where I at least know things about them before I go in and watch them.
Yeah.
I went into this totally blind and really enjoyed, like, the individual performances and the overarching premise of redemption, especially in a story from a gangster movie from the 1930s.
Right, and this I think was the first, from what I've read and researched, I think it was the first film at the time anyway to actually show a gangster being redeemed.
Mm-hmm.
Because it didn't happen. Usually they would either be sent to prison or they'd be executed or whatever. Because of the Hays Code, they couldn't win.
They couldn't get away with it.
Right,
Yeah.
couldn't get away with it. But this one, he's actually redeemed, which was a nice twist for the time.
Yeah, he does get what's coming to him though. The Hays Code still does get their way.
Right, of course, right, yeah. Spoiler alerts for
yeah.
the film that was released in 1938. But yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
A couple minutes ago.
Yeah.
The main meat of the movie is twofold. So one is Rocky trying to get the money that he's
owed, right.
Which he left in the hands of a crooked lawyer played by Humphrey Bogart.
Yep, Jim Frazier.
Who's scamming him.
Yep.
And while he's doing that, he's also fallen in with this group of kids that's trying to be shepherded by his old friend,
right.
Jerry, who's now a priest, and trying to prevent them really from...
He's trying to get them on the right path.
Yeah, trying to prevent them from becoming Rocky.
Right. Because he sees firsthand, and you can tell he's really hurt by what Rocky has become.
Mm-hmm. But their friendship remains solid, even though they know that they're on completely separate sides of the law and morality.
Right. In fact, Jerry even admits to the girl at one point too that he loves Rocky. Mm-hmm. Which is unusual at the time also because men just didn't really express their feelings that way. She says she loves Rocky, and he says I love him too, and you can see that's why he's hurt. Not that he's taking it personal, but he doesn't want anything bad to happen to his old friend. Yes.
It's a very relationally designed movie, which is unusual for a gangster film. There's not a lot of action films. There's like one shootout at the end, but the emphasis is less on the blows exchange and more so on the fact that you, as an audience member, you're conflicted because on one hand you want Rocky to get away with it, on the other hand,
you really know he shouldn't.
Yeah,
and he can't.
Mm-hmm.
And he's so charming.
He's great.
He is great. Yeah. If you ever want to root for the bad guy, you kind of forget that he is the bad guy.
He's very personable.
He is.
And he's really there's a warmth to Cagney's portrayal of a gangster. I've seen so many gangster movies, but they're very cold. They're calculating.
Yeah.
The Scarfaces, the Godfathers, like those type of films. Goodfellas is what I hear a lot of people talk about when they talk about this movie.
Yeah. And it's funny, even in this, that he doesn't really coddle the kids at all, and he doesn't even seem like he really particularly likes them.
No, smacks them around.
But he still seems warm. Like, he still seems like, hey, if they turn out good, that'd be nice. Like, I'm not going to put my life on the line for it, but...
And he's relational with them, too, which is interesting. Like,
he is.
There's, in a way where Jerry is not at arm's length, like, because he wants to be. He's trying to get their relationship with them, but he's trying to be a leader.
Yeah.
Rocky's one of them.
Right,
because he
Jerry's
grew
a
out
little
of
cold.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's very, this is the path you got to go. Mm-hmm. And he even says that. He kind of lets Rocky kind of teach him a little bit, as far as even getting him onto the basketball court. Because Rocky uses much, first of all, they admire him.
Yes.
So it's a little bit easier
they
for
love him.
But he also he knows how to deal with these hoods because he's dealt with them his whole life. And Jerry hasn't really, except for early childhood. Mm-hmm. So he's going to kind of look, I'll let Rocky handle this,
I'm personally... this is an aside. I like basketball. I like professional basketball in college. That was the most excruciating 10 minutes of any film. I'm like...
completely disorganized. But again, it almost seemed real in a way because it is so disorganized. Like even the kids who are supposed to be good, the non-dead end kids, are not very good.
I couldn't.
In fact, most of the very little dribbling.
Yes, that drove me nuts.
Like, my wife asked me, like, did they not have to dribble back then? I said, no, they did, but you don't see it much. One guy, in fact, Leo Gorcey, even swings on a trapeze.
Yes.
To try to dunk the ball. But that was just to show how disorganized and how rough, obviously, they don't follow rules.
I didn't mind the trapeze. I minded the not dribbling.
Yeah, I know I did too. Just running and like almost like football.
That drove me nuts.
Knocking guys over. Some great lines. And again, Michael Curtiz was not known as a director of children. So I don't know if he just let them go and whatever, but there's a lot of ad-libbing going on there. Scenes, like, again, without subtitles, you might never even catch, like, certain lines. But I thought they gave great performances.
They did. I was impressed.
Yeah, very natural. Little scenes, like I mentioned this earlier, one of my favorite scenes is when these guys are fouling everybody, the dead end kids. They're fouling everybody left and right. And at one of them, James Cagney calls them out. And James Cagney points right at him and says, foul. And he goes, wait, what? Did somebody hit me?
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't even know it. Obviously, it's him. He's calling out. So funny. And, of course, James Cagney does hit him.
I wasn't familiar with the Dead End Kids until this moment. That was a group of young actors, like, kids from New York who appeared in the Broadway play Dead End in 1935 that got taken onto film.
The film version, yeah.
So that was where they started. I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. And I knew them just in their later years, too, as the Bowery Boys and the East Side Kids. And I forget exactly how many films they did as the Dead End Kids, maybe 6 or 7, I think. But they were good. They had, some success.
They had some energy.
Yeah, one of them was also on the All in the Family later on.
Oh, really?
Later life, yeah. I think Gabe Dell. Don't quote me on that.
Okay.
Yeah, and some of them didn't do as well, unfortunately. Most people remember Leo Gorcey.
Yeah, he looked familiar.
He always played like Slip Mahoney or something like that. And Huntz Hall, who was also very good. He always played Satch in the series, and he was sort of the comedy relief.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But they were great in this again. So you're looking like, wow, Michael Curtiz is a really good child director too.
Or at least good at letting them have their way.
Right. Yeah. Whatever it was, it worked. In fact, Michael Curtiz, I want to mention too. He really did everything.
Really.
Like, he did westerns, comedies, action, film noir, horror. Dr. X was one of his first early films, and it was a great film. Still hailed as one of the best horror films ever. It still holds up well, even the effects. So he had quite a resume, or built quite a resume. He was very diverse.
He did a lot, especially he was Warner Brothers. He was one of theirs. But some of my favorite stuff by him, I really like The Adventures of Robin Hood.
Oh, one of my favorites too, which we should do at some point.
That's a very good one.
Yep, great.
Mildred Pierce is his.
Pierce
and
also, right? So he worked with women too, strong women,
White Christmas.
Right.
Which is totally Casablanca, obviously, and Yankee Doodle Dandy, which
which won James Cagney the Academy Award.
He deserved it.
He did.
What a guy.
Seahawk with Errol Flynn. He did quite a few films with Errol Flynn also, yeah. And he's been called the greatest director you've never heard of. A lot of people don't know Michael Curtiz films because they're hard to pigeonhole.
He doesn't have a type.
Yeah. John Ford was known mostly for westerns, but Michael Curtiz did all that and more.
They almost remade this in the 80s.
Did they?
Did you hear about that?
No, a film version?
They almost remade it. And originally, and this is during some of my reading.
I can already tell you, I don't know anything about it, but I can tell you it wouldn't have been good.
No, I agree. When they're looking at remaking it, they were thinking about getting Sylvester Stallone on board for it. And then when it fell through, he did...
He's a New Yorker.
He did Cobra instead.
Oh, Cobra? Well...
Which was better.
Yeah.
A lot better.
For all of us. For people who are fans of this film also.
Yeah, I'm glad they left us alone.
Yeah. No, I hope they never remake it.
Same.
Yeah.
So, I mentioned this before we started recording. My grandfather, on my mom's side, did not care for James Cagney at all. The only movie of his that he liked was Yankee Doodle Dandy. That was the only thing I knew about James Cagney before I started this film.
Right.
I was shocked at how instantly I enjoyed watching him. I really just liked...
He's just one of those people too, and there's
magnetic.
Yeah, and when he's on the screen, you have to watch him. He's just you can't look away. And Humphrey Bogart, I feel, is the same way. Maybe not even so much in this film, but later, or
James Cagney's definitely more, at least in this,
more appealing,
energetic.
Yeah,
he's always moving, and he's always
even when he's not speaking. You just gotta watch him. You gotta watch because, like you said, he's always acting.
He's visibly thinking.
Well, or again, he's acting, but it doesn't seem like he's acting. He inhabits the character.
I did a little bit of reading too. I guess he took that I think he says it 6 times in the film. That what do you hear? What do you say?
I love that.
And
Yeah.
I love that he took that
from an actual
someone he knew.
Yeah, some kind of I think a drug addict, and all the gestures. And James Cagney later kind of lamented that he did that like 6 times in this film, and really only in this film. And every impersonator does the same, you know, with the shoulders and the hands, where he moves his shoulders and his arms. He did that because that he thought was kind of like
it was unique, a choice.
It was unique, yeah. It was great. It did it well. And we also have to mention Frankie Burke, who plays James Cagney as a child or as a teenager.
Stunning lookalike.
Stunning lookalike, sound alike, unbelievable.
Yes.
I checked to see if they actually dubbed his voice, but it's him. He had a small business impersonating James Cagney as a teen. Yeah,
That's funny.
He was so confident, and I guess people built him up saying, "Oh, it's unbelievable. You sound exactly like him." So he sort of kind of got into business, and he applied to go to Hollywood as whatever you need. Hey, if you need James Cagney's son, brother, whatever, I'll play him, or him as a young, as a young man. And he finally did get selected for his role in this, and he blew it out of the water.
Yeah.
Small bit he's in, oh my gosh, unbelievable. Walking into prison, looks exactly like James Cagney.
This and River Phoenix as young Indiana Jones are the two.
Right.
Like, those are the 2 examples where I'm like, that
really,
could
really
be them.
Good. Perfect.
That's perfect.
You really believe it. Yeah, and it's hard to do. They had a hard time getting a kid to play Pat O'Brien. I think you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if he just wasn't unique enough or whatever, but
I feel like Pat O'Brien he's good.
He doesn't have the mannerisms that James Cagney has.
He's not. Some people are easily
sort of mimicked.
Yeah, and that's why we do them. Peter Lorre is an example where I've seen Peter Lorre done more times than I've seen Peter Lorre movies.
Right, even modern cartoons will still have a Peter Lorre character. Yeah.
Kids don't know who that is.
Right, they don't even know who it is. Yeah. And I even showed my Evelyn, my daughter, how this is Peter Lorre from a film we watched, and she said, "Oh my gosh, I didn't even know it was a real person." He's a real person.
People do Bela Lugosi's Dracula. They do Boris Karloff's Frankenstein.
Right.
There are some people that that stick in our brains, and we just keep doing them.
Right.
Humphrey Bogart is actually a stock impersonation too.
Right.
Mostly his noir stuff, but still.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
John Wayne.
Yeah. There are some. I don't know too many today. Again.
I think your big ones now are Nicolas Cage and Christopher Walken. Those are the ones.
That's true. Actually, yeah, they have in fact, sometimes they seem to be parodying themselves.
Yeah.
In certain roles, yeah.
And I think like they ran into that a little bit back then too. But back then it was like a pigeonhole. This is what we're casting you for. It's people know this is you.
Right.
Do it again.
Right, and people love this. They respond to it.
That's why James Cagney played so many gangsters.
Yeah.
He did it very well.
He did everything well though. He really was really talented. I want to mention a little anecdote about Michael Curtiz. He was born in Hungary, Budapest. And when he came into New York from Hungary, at Harry Warner's request, there were fireworks and shouting and cheering when he pulled in with the ship and got off on the dock. And so he asked Harry Warner, "Is all this for me?" And Warner responded, yes, but it's also the 4th of July. So Michael Curtiz believed that this was the welcome that Warner Brothers had arranged for him to come and make films for them. So I thought that was great. And then he did. He went on to become the director at Warner Brothers. He made some great films. As you mentioned, a bunch of them. And you know what else I like about him? I had a little note here too. He gave one of the shortest Academy Award speeches.
Oh, okay.
Which I loved. And his whole acceptance speech was, "I'm grateful for the 30-second time limit." Which I'm also grateful
That's hilarious.
for. Yeah. And I wish people didn't abuse it, Which is just funny. He didn't speak English well. They said he speaks five languages, but none of them well. So, yeah, he apparently he was hard to understand.
Interesting.
And just as another aside, I just thought of that. There was a book, autobiographical, written by David Niven called Bring on the Empty Horses.
Okay.
Which is a famous title, but he got that title from Michael Curtiz. He just meant riderless horses. And he said, "Bring on the empty horses."
Oh, that's funny.
For the film they were making. Yeah, I thought that was such a great line.
That is funny.
Because, you think about how other people from other countries, other cultures might say certain things.
It's not this movie, but it is a Michael Curtiz film. There's a scene in Casablanca with the couple who are immigrating, and they're like, "Oh, we speak perfect English." Their English is perfect, but their sentence structure is off.
Right. And that's common.
We take that for granted.
We do, yeah. And I think it is very hard to learn.
It is.
Again, like you said, we take it for granted, but it's probably not that easy.
No.
And you also mentioned the fountain pens. I thought that was such a funny little tidbit,
thing.
Right? What a weird thing. Stealing fountain pens. It's a good trivia question, because if you ask people what were they in trouble for, what did they get arrested, or what did they almost get arrested for, what did Rocky get arrested for? Stealing fountain pens. Wow. But I like the line there also, because it really kind of sums up their lives up to that point. Jerry hesitates too, like fountain pens, and he says, "Well, what we don't steal, we ain't got."
Yep.
So it didn't matter. We got to take whatever we can.
Mm-hmm.
And that really, it's supposed to be the Depression. It was how some people did have to live. Whatever you wanted, you had to take it.
I think so. We did mention this, and like coming to it as the film's coming to a close. Rocky doesn't get away with it. His life of crime catches up eventually. He can't buy freedom forever.
Right.
He's caught, and he's sentenced to the electric chair.
Yeah.
And the entire last third of the film is not even so much of will Rocky die. It's more of a question of how is he going to go out.
Right.
Which is such an interesting question that I've never seen posed in this kind of a film. Usually, like, you watch stuff and just assume they're gonna go out. Like you're like the kids; they're gonna go out. They don't even
show it.
Yes,
there'll be some sort of an aftermath where you say like, "Well, that was it."
Yep. Stiff upper lip. You want your heroes to go out well. Rocky, even though he's a criminal who's done a lot of reprehensible things, he's a hero to these kids.
He is,
which is the problem.
Right. Especially for Father Jerry.
Yeah, who spends a good chunk of the film trying to shake that hero worship. Yeah. Because
he doesn't want them to end up like his best friend did.
Yeah. So the last bit of this is Rocky's is almost like a third party of his own story, where Father Jerry goes to him and begs him go out like
give me one
coward.
last favor.
Yeah.
And I love that too because James Cagney has no idea what it's going to be, and Rocky says, "Well, can't do you too many favors now. I mean, prison about to die, right? What can I do?" And that's the whole point. You can die a coward.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
That you would ask someone that. And
And again, Rocky responds as most people would. Like, you asked me to crawl on my belly, the last thing I do in my life.
The last thing I have. You want me to give it up.
Flat out says, like, forget it. Ask me something else. I'm not doing that.
And there is tragedy to Rocky's life. They don't go into it a lot because he is such a tough guy. He doesn't really crack a whole lot. Right. But there is this, like, swaggering, like, I have to do this. Yeah. Because I have nothing left.
Right, he even says that. Well, he even says that, I guess in order to be afraid, you have to have a heart. And I had that burned out of me a long time ago. Yeah. So you don't know if it was before they got arrested or before he got sent to jail or it was during his jail terms, which is very sad. I mean, you do feel sorry for him also. You don't know all the detail, and they don't really make him sympathetic necessarily. But I think as human beings in the audience, you do sympathize.
They make him warm.
Yeah, they do make him warm.
Yeah, he's relational. His relationship with the kids, even though I don't think he's crazy about them. Yeah. His relationship with Lori, played by Ann Sheridan.
Yeah, even that is great.
I buy them.
Yeah, me too. And she held that grudge from when they were kids.
Yeah, that was funny.
She kind of liked him as a kid, and he was very mean to her. Very mean to her. In fact, when he gets down from the fire escape, it's almost like, what was he going to beat her up? Yeah. And he's like, yeah, you said that to me. And then he does like kind of just mess with her a little bit. But and
she gives it back to him.
She does, but she first sees him all these years later, and he doesn't recognize her. And then she says, "Oh, hey, it is you." And then she pulls his hat down and kicks him or slaps him. And he smiles after that, which is funny because he kind of realizes too, like,
that's her.
I kind of deserve that. Yeah.
And there's warmth too in his relationship with Jerry.
Oh, of course.
We've seen this done a lot since then. Like brothers or friends separated by by the side of the track.
Right. It's been mimicked so many times, but I think this was probably
the OG.
First.
I think so. Yeah. And it's done very well. And I'm not gonna lie, when they first dropped that question of like, is Rocky going to die a coward? Yeah. He does. He makes that choice. He does. Which startled me. Yeah, and which also, created this whole sort of so many people wondering. So did he? And James Cagney himself was asked that same question a lot of times. Even in one of his last interviews, of course, he was asked, they were like, so what do you think? Of course, he knows, I guess. He portrayed it, but he said, I wanted to portray it where let the audience decide. I believe that he obviously was faking it. I think he faked it.
I think, because there was nothing in his character. In fact, he even says, what? You talk about going, before he knows what Jerry's about to ask him, he says, what? You talk about going out there? I'm just going to tell him, like, yeah, just give me a haircut and, whatever.
It's like going to the barber's.
Shave. Yeah, it's like no big deal at all. That's nothing. But that's the whole point. He thinks Jerry's worried about him being afraid, but he doesn't realize Jerry wants him to be afraid, or at least pretend to be afraid.
It's significantly harder, I think, for him to pretend. Yeah. Than it is to go out acting like he doesn't care. Right. And that's a question I have not seen a film like this ask me before.
Yeah.
I appreciated being asked. I appreciated it was shocking. I can imagine it being shocking in 1938. I don't know how many electric chair sequences there were in films from back then.
I know, and it's done well. Again, you don't even hear him scream. It just gets quiet.
Cut off.
It's silent in the middle of a scream. And so everyone knows without being shown what happened.
The way that's shot too, that whole last sequence, it turns very like horror film-esque.
What's interesting about that? I was thinking about it, and I said, up until that moment, he's coming from darkness. When he walks down that corridor to the electric chair, it's very dark. There's a lot of shadows, and you see prison bars. He walks through the bars, and he walks beyond the bars, which I was looking at. I was like, it's kind of metaphorical, right? He's almost he's going to leave prison now because he's going to be dead. His soul will leave prison, and he walks. And at the very end, one of the last shots of him is the light on him. And I don't think it's supposed to be heaven's light necessarily, but it's some sort of redemption. I think he was redeemed fully. I think at that moment he had decided. He's got a sort of a scowl on his face, like making him look really mean. But I wonder, in his head, I'm wondering at that moment he's deciding, yeah, you know what? I'm going to do it for Jerry. And that's the other thing is I don't think he did it for the kids necessarily. I don't think he cared really, honestly, one way or the other because he's a hardened gangster. But I think he did care about Jerry, and he knew how important the kids were to Jerry. So if he did it, if there's any question at all whether he did it, I don't think there is. I think he definitely faked it, being a coward, and how well.
Yeah.
I mean, he goes from just like I'm going to spit in your eye to suddenly just
howling, screaming,
groveling, clinging to the radiator, everything he can.
What a performance!
Yeah, great performance, and I love that guy. The I don't know what he was, like the screw he called him. The prison, the guy who was kind of guiding there, watching him, the prison guard. And they said his name, and I wanted to look up his name to see if it had any significance. I was wondering if it was anyone in the cast or the crew. Just curious. But, that guy at the end even says, like, and he was going to spit in my face.
Yep.
Right in front of Jerry. And Jerry's behind him, realizing this guy doesn't even know that he's faking that for me. It had more power, I think, with that guard saying that. Like, almost thinking, like, the performance was so great.
Fooled everybody.
That even the guard was like, shit, and he was going to spit in my face, this coward, So I think then Jerry knew, the kids are going to buy it. Which was, again, the point.
The last line of the movie, I think, was probably the one that affected me the most, probably affected audiences the most. Let's say a prayer for a kid who couldn't run as fast as I could.
Right.
Because it's not like, that's, I think, the crux of the story, and maybe the crux of why these kids matter so much to the story.
Right.
Rocky and Jerry were not different kids.
Right.
They were the same type of person.
Right.
What happened...
Yeah, there was really no difference in the beginning.
Yeah, the split
went along
occurred
with everything, right?
Somewhere down the line. Rocky goes to prison and gets put through the system. Jerry gets away. Right. We don't see Jerry's future. Like, we don't watch him grow up.
No,
we only watch Rocky.
Right.
So I don't know what happened between then
and Jerry even comes.
Now.
Remember, Jerry even comes to see him again as kids and says, "I'm going to tell them that I was with you."
And Rocky says, "Don't."
And Rocky makes him insist he wouldn't, and then he even says, "Come on, I know you would do the same for me." And we all know, too, that Rocky would.
Yeah.
But Rocky says, "Oh, I wouldn't do that for you." Again, he lies in the beginning, and he lies at the end. I don't know if people make that connection. You know what I mean? Like, he tells Jerry, "I wouldn't do it for you." But we all kind of know he would. That's just his character. And that final line, let's go and say a prayer for a boy who couldn't run as fast as I could. I rewatched it, the beginning, twice today. Just because I always thought, wait, wasn't Rocky faster? Rocky was running. He was in the lead. And then Jerry fell. And Rocky went back to get him.
That's crazy.
It's
now
funny.
You mention that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he helps him. And then Jerry takes off and he's leading. And I thought, that's kind of interesting. To me, that was another... You can record it because I think that's kind of interesting to talk about. Because I think that's another question that's never really asked. The question is, did Rocky fake it at the end? I also think, why does he say, let's go say a prayer for a boy? Obviously, it's sort of metaphorical because he couldn't run away from his setting. The neighborhood, the crime. He couldn't run away. So I could see that maybe being the point.
Maybe.
But I watched it again. I was like, wait, yeah, Rocky's definitely ahead of him when Jerry falls. And then Rocky runs back and helps him up on the tracks. Remember the train's coming? He picks him up. And then he starts to run. Not really worrying so much about Rocky anymore. Now he's taking off, right? And then Rocky gets caught. And Rocky never blames him and never even mentions that. No. In fact, earlier they do say something about him not being able to run as fast. And I don't remember. I think maybe even Rocky said that. But it wasn't really true.
No.
I think Rocky could probably run faster in that pinch.
I think there was...
I think it had more to do with their hearts, like who was going to go back, and protect the other guy. Just like Rocky told him, "Oh, I wasn't going to lie for you." or I wouldn't do this for you. I wouldn't go there and say, hey, I did it.
There's
Because he wants Jerry not to feel so bad.
There's a lot of movies about gangsters who like stab each other in the back. I think this is the first time I've ever seen any of them, like a gangster movie about a guy who does so much protecting.
Yeah. It just adds to his likability. You know, you realize if you catch on to all those little moments, even with the kids, like everything he's doing, it's really for Jerry. He's also kind of prepping those kids where maybe Jerry can manage them a little better. You know.
Yeah. No.
Not just with his death. I mean, just everything he's kind of showing Jerry. Look, you know, you got to rough them up a little bit. You got to be tough with these kids. You know, that same pattern that you're using for some of the people at the church, it's not going to work with the kids who are on the streets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're not. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when this came out in 1938, this received Academy Award nominations for Best Director, Actor, and Screenplay, but it never got a nomination for Best Picture.
Yeah,
which is crazy.
Yeah.
It did. I don't think it flew under the radar, but I know like recently, last year, 2024, it was inducted into the National Film Registry.
Wow.
Took them that
so long.
I don't know.
Because it was a hit at the time, you know, which kind of saved Warner Brothers that year. It was one of the few hits Warner Brothers had that year.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel like they were...
38 was also Adventures of Robin Hood, wasn't it?
That may have been 39.
I think it was 38, actually.
You might be right.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was a good year for Warner Brothers. And those were big... I think they were big money makers, too.
I know at least The Adventures of Robin Hood was. And too, like, the Great Depression was a rough period where, like, film really did take off. You're right, it was 38, by the way.
Yeah.
A lot of people, film was escapism. That's why there were so many comedies in the 30s, stuff like that.
Yeah, screwball comedies.
Yeah, they got really big, and the gangster films were escapism for a lot of people. It was, let's go to the movies and watch something that's not real that we can kind of enjoy. Which is, I think, why the Hays Code became such a big deal, especially on the gangster films.
Yeah.
We can't have people having too much fun with these.
Right. You can't glorify it at all.
Exactly.
Either, right?
Which is...
Because at the time, there was a lot of crime going on. It was the Depression, you know. And it also, they didn't want to give people any ideas.
Right.
And here's a way to get out of the Depression.
But I think that's why, like, this film, I've seen a couple of, like, those movies where it is very moralizing. And even this one that has some moments of heavy-handedness of, like, hey, don't do this. Like, you know, obviously we don't want to give this message, both to these kids in universe and to the audience out of universe.
Right.
But this was the first time I ever saw, like, the bad guy get it at the end. Aside from maybe Scarface, where I was like, okay, they did it in a way where I didn't feel cheated.
Right.
I feel like this was a fitting...
You didn't feel manipulated. It felt perfectly real.
Yeah, it was a natural ending to the story.
It was, yeah.
And a natural conclusion to these characters and their arcs, which is even bigger. Rocky,
other than that switch at the end for him, it all was very, you know.
And Rocky is the main character. It's very much him and like his story. Jerry does fulfill like a secondary protagonist role.
Right. And he did it well.
Very.
Pat O'Brien.
Mm-hmm. He's earnest.
Yeah.
And maybe a little understated. He doesn't do a lot of preaching or he doesn't do a lot of like heavy moralizing. It's more of like coming from a genuine like, I don't want you to destroy yourself.
Yeah, it is, right. Because he also comes from the same background, so he knows. And it's really an example of, you know, there, but for the grace of God go I. He really knows this is like the perfect example of that, you know.
Who do you think the angels are?
Well, I think it's funny because at one point the angels are washing their faces, you know, with the after the basketball thing. They specifically show them scrubbing up. But I think it could also be and then Ann Sheridan also says, "Where are our precious angels?" So I think it's supposed to be the kids because they all have dirty faces. But clearly, so does James Cagney. Humphrey Bogart's not an angel, but he also has a dirty face.
Oh, he's awful.
Yeah, he is so awful, and George Bancroft. But they play those roles well. And if anyone hasn't seen this movie, you have to see it. It really is such a great film.
I agree. I was very surprised that I'd gone this long without seeing it.
Yeah. And it goes quick. I mean, there's no draggy spots whatsoever.
No, it moves quick. It's maybe an hour 40.
Yeah,
it's a freak.
If that, it's about. It feels like an hour and a half.
It's a tight script.
It just goes quick. It's very tight script. Yeah, very well done. Max Steiner does the score again. He's great. Music's so secondary. Like you're not even aware of it. But he also was a big. I don't know if just Warner Brothers, but he was a big film. He did a lot of musical scores like King Kong and I forget how late he was doing it, but it's a famous name, and it's all background really in this one. There's nothing memorable as far as the music, but it's got a great great cast and crew.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very well put together.
really it is. Humphrey
Yeah.
Bogart's scenes are, he's so. I wonder if he was enjoying it because he plays such a despicable character,
Yeah, I don't know.
And he's such a sneak. Like
I'm
he
not
thinks
used to
Rocky
seeing
leaves,
him.
and then he starts saying, like, "Here's what we're gonna do,
Yeah.
Rocky." He's like, "Oh, so."
I'm not used to seeing him as a bad guy.
Yeah, I know.
Those-
I know, but he played it well.
Oh yeah.
Almost too well. I'm surprised he wasn't pigeonholed into that.
That's where he started. Well, he was early on. I
Oh, right, he
think.
was. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm surprised he did. Obviously some great films afterwards.
Mhm.
He was sort of the hero.
I think this type in the Petrified Forest, like that type of character is what he played a lot
Yeah.
early on, and then slowly ended up falling into like the anti-hero esque
Yeah,
leading man category.
Hollywood's always had a sort of soft spot for that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it pays off, and it doesn't take long. Like this is 1938. His big break would be 1941. So that's we only have a couple years until
Right.
he's a big deal.
And that is huge. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. No looking back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, Max Steiner also did Casablanca,
Okay.
Gone with the Wind, The Searchers. So yeah.
Oh, he did The Searchers.
Yeah,
Nice.
Yeah, so he was around a while. Did a lot of great film scores.
Looking at Angels with Dirty Faces, did you have a favorite sequence?
Boy, that's tricky because there's so many great sequences. I love the basketball game. I just
Oh,
thought
dude.
again, watching and listening, and I had the subtitles on, and looking at some of the
Mhm.
dialogue that I didn't hear, I just thought it was, like I said, I think he may have just said, just go nuts,
Mhm.
go ahead, do what you want. Because some of the antics that they pull, the pranks they pull, and they're rough, they really are. Like you said, it's almost like they're playing football, just
Mhm.
running guys down, knocking them down. I just thought it's an entertaining scene.
It is entertaining.
Yeah, because your eyes are constantly moving because they're moving.
Mhm.
You're watching them running up and down, and then James Cagney keeps getting in the middle. Once he gets involved, originally it's Pat O'Brien,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can see that James Cagney's had enough because obviously Pat O'Brien can't control these kids.
Yeah.
And then James Cagney goes out there and gives them a little dose of their own medicine,
Mm-hmm.
slapping them, elbowing them.
Tripping.
Yeah, tripping them. Yeah, it was great. I just thought that was a fun sequence anyway. Of course, the ending's great. I mean, really, to me, it's such a great film. It's hard to even pick out a scene that stands out above the others. They're really all good. The scenes with Ann Sheridan, even little gimmicks like when she pulls his hat down and slaps him, and then he sits on the bed and the bed collapses.
Yes.
Really cheap hotel. And the prices. I always find it interesting listening to what prices are.
Yeah, I
Back
know.
in the old days.
I know.
It was like 5 cents for the week, I think, or something like that. It was something crazy.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
We haven't seen that in a long time.
And even the Fleabag rooms still look bigger than Fleabag rooms today.
Probably.
Or even expensive rooms today, It's pretty roomy.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I liked a lot of. I mean, the ending obviously is like incredible.
Yeah.
I like the beginning, actually.
With them as kids?
Yeah, I actually did like that.
Yeah, I did too. Also very believable. And those kids, I don't even know who the other one was. Like I said, Frankie Burke is one who does James Cagney, but they were also so believable. And Frankie Burke had I think it's hard. He's not only acting, but he's also
doing an impression of somebody.
Right? Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
I like a lot of their scenes. Rocky's with Laurie as well. I think that there's a lot of humanization of him that takes place there.
Right.
And she's also great because she knows what he is.
Right.
Like, it's not like she's starry-eyed and thinks that he's changed or better. I think she's aware of who and what
they
he
even
is.
flesh her out a little, which they didn't have to. They did mention that she had been married.
Yeah.
And she'd been around the block with a guy like him, so she kind of knew.
She has a type, apparently.
Right, yeah. And then she still falls for him, and she still believes in him, which makes her sympathetic, too.
Yeah.
First, she's just tough, and you're like, good, good for her. And then she starts to fall, and then you realize, like, oh, I don't want her getting hurt either,
Yeah, it's a sad ending for everybody.
It is, yeah.
I don't know if you can have a favorite character besides Rocky.
I do like, I don't remember what his name was in the part of the gang, but I like their leader.
Oh.
He was in a few films with James Cagney. He was always, I thought, very believable.
I liked.
He's soapy, I think he was.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I liked Bogart just because I like watching him, but like in terms of character, I think the main three are the ones that I really do enjoy. And while Rocky's my favorite performance, I think they're all very good characters. I've seen those archetypes done afterwards. Actually, I was saying this to my sister. There's an episode of Batman the Animated Series, which I grew up watching that borrows pretty heavily from this movie, and I didn't really realize that until I was watching this, and I was like, oh, I've seen this before.
Which is also funny, right? Yeah.
But
how could you not? I mean, it's just such a great film.
But Batman the Animated Series borrowed stylistically heavily from the 1930s. And their gangsters were specifically designed to emulate like the 1930s and 40s aesthetic. So I think it makes sense that they borrowed. Yeah, they borrowed.
In fact, I bought a DVD set. I think it's called the Classic Gangster Collection. And of course, this is on there. Petrified Forest. There's a lot of great films.
I should see more of them. I like gangster films better than I like crime movies. I think there's a difference. I think like Fargo, which we covered a couple episodes ago, is more of a crime film. This is more of a gangster film. I do like the style that comes with these better. Yeah.
I do too. I think, well, all the ones I just mentioned too, and so many more. We talked about Paul Muni.
Yeah.
And I'm a Fugitive from a Chain Gang. They're all great films, that was a whole period there.
It was very prolific.
Very prolific.
They were really
the
crazy.
40s, and then it sort of merged into film noir.
Yeah.
Which was still a lot of gangsters there.
And then by the time the 50s roll around, that's pretty much, that genre's dead.
Yeah.
That really doesn't come back.
Yeah.
The next time we see
Fargo, maybe. Which was not Fargo, even Blade Runner, remember?
Yeah.
Which was like a science fiction film noir. They had to find another way to get it into, I think, a modern audience.
Yeah, I think the gangster archetype kind of morphed into the classy, dignified mob. I think that's what we see, like The Godfather.
True, right.
And Goodfellas, I think, like.
And there's a connection there in real life also. It did kind of morph into that.
It turned into that.
Yeah.
So I do think that like America is in love with the gangster. We have been since Capone.
Yeah.
Which is so interesting because we all know and we warn our kids like, don't, this is bad.
Yeah,
but
as we're smiling, looking dreamy-eyed.
Watching it. We love watching it over and over again. Bonnie and Clyde, same thing.
John Dillinger, to me,
we like
read his history. He was one of the best, and he had regular people lying to the police and the FBI about where he was. Nobody was doing that then. He was just such a likable guy, and that was the Depression also, which you can almost understand. And their thinking was, well, he's not robbing from me. I'd rather he's robbing from the banks. Yeah. It didn't matter that it was their money. They were insured, I guess, back then. I don't know. But they still felt like, well, he's not robbing me. And they kind of didn't like the banks. Yeah. Rightly or wrongly, they didn't like the banks. So, hey, he's hitting the banks. Good luck.
Good for them.
Yeah.
I do think it is interesting that the genre got so big in this decade, where we were going through the Depression and money was scarce. Yeah. I think there's something about that life of excess that comes, even though like we came by the means wrongly, that Americans found attractive. Yeah. That montage early on in this film where you see him rolling in dough. Yeah. Everything. I can see how to an audience that was struggling to make ends meet would be like, you know what? I wouldn't, but I can see why someone would. Like,
yeah. I wouldn't do it, but
it'd be kind of fun.
You can kind of understand how they would or how they could.
And that's why there's a trope specifically called "Do not do this cool thing." Yeah. That I think like this, Scarface, like a lot of those gangster films
sort of
were the reason why. Yeah. They started being like, we should probably tell people not to do this.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Because why wouldn't we? I'm looking at this. He's living the greatest life. Yeah. Like I'm scrounging for food on the street. He's in nightclubs dancing. Yeah. Yeah. Living the life. Yeah, it's so true.
But I think while some performances, some films really do glorify, I don't feel like this one's one of them. No. I think this movie does show, does such a good job at showing the life that he's trapped himself in. Like, even if he doesn't want to get out, it's still a dead end. Right. He dies very young.
Which is why they were called the dead end kids also, right? Yeah.
And it is sad. And even though he goes out preventing other people from becoming like him, at the end of the day, if all you are is a lesson, that's not good either.
No. You do feel sorry for him, because again, sort of a victim of his upbringing or his situation, his circumstances, It was a tough place to live back then. New York City and the Depression.
Makes me think of the song from West Side Story, G. Officer Krupke.
Yeah, are you familiar? Love that. Yeah, I know the words,
that song, it's comedically done, but it's
sort of gets his point across too.
It's poking at this is what happens when we go in the system. What else can we do? This is what we are.
And they even in the song, which is great. We should just read the lyrics one time. They talk about his parents.
Mm-hmm.
My mother is a junkie. My father is a drunk.
Yeah.
You know, like, what are we supposed to do with that?
Yeah, and then the song itself, we're not talking about West Side Story, but we should.
Right.
But
in the future.
In the future.
Yeah.
They're going through like parts of the legal system, including like these reform
right.
establishments.
And how they just get passed along.
Yeah, and
take them to a social worker.
And where does that get you in the end? No,
exactly.
Nowhere
right.
better.
Yeah. What you need is a job.
Mm-hmm.
I said I need a job.
The systems out there historically have not done right by I'd say the troubled youth. And that's something, if there was one lesson that I'm glad I took away from this, it's we need to do better by our kids.
Right.
Even if, like, whether they're ours or not, like,
right.
You know, in order to really prevent people's lives from being thrown away.
Yeah, and they are. And then how long does your sympathy extend, you know? Because when they're kids, you can feel sympathetic. When they become adults and they're really hurting and killing people, then your sympathy kind of has
Obviously, we have limits to that.
Right.
But
I grew up with rec centers. Did you? Like, where boys clubs kind of places where you could?
Not where I live.
Yeah. When I grew up too, there were things like that, and I would go there occasionally. You know, I had no problem just playing with my friends on the street, but for people who didn't, those places were there. You know, and I don't know what the success rate was necessarily, but you know, you had organized sports there. You had certainly basketball courts.
I'm in a pretty rural area,
right?
So most of our social life was more like church functions, stuff like that. We didn't really have a lot of, and we were schooled at home, so we didn't have a ton of interaction like that.
Right.
But I think in some of the cities there is a little bit more.
There is. Yeah.
I think still like the YMCA is still a thing.
Right. It was also the times. I don't even think kids are going out much today. Period.
Probably not.
You know, they're inside.
Yeah.
So they're safe, but they're not really learning much.
Yeah, times have changed for sure.
Yeah, they really have. Yeah.
But I mean, that's not surprising. Like, this film came out in 1938. You said that this was your dad's favorite film.
Yeah.
So we're now in 2025.
Yeah.
That's almost 100 years.
And still, I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think good films, and this is something that I think we're going to touch on as we look back on, especially some of these old ones. If you can remove from the film itself, if you can allow it to be from the time it's from, a good movie is a good movie.
Yeah, right.
I think there's some stuff that's like inexcusable. There's some stuff that's like, okay, we knew this was wrong back then and we still did it.
Right.
But I think there was some, you know, you can forgive outdated slang. I can forgive.
Oh yeah, of course.
I forgive black and white.
Right.
Sorry, Trevor.
Yeah.
But
some people won't see it just on that basis alone, which is crippling for them, I think. It's the greatest.
A good movie with a good message is always gonna, same as a book, it's always gonna be able to stand the test of time.
Yeah.
And I think that's why, if for no other reason, that's why we're doing this podcast. These need to be talked about.
Yeah.
Even if you haven't seen them in a while.
They should certainly be seen.
Yes.
The ones we're talking about, which doesn't create much, you know, sort of contrast between our views necessarily, because they are great films, you know. But a lot of people don't see great films. A lot of people, like we said, some people just say, "Oh, it's black and white."
I don't want to see it.
And black and white to me is so much crisper. I don't know why, especially on DVD, and you know, if it's been restored. I just find it so much nicer to see rather than all the colors.
Yeah.
You know? I don't know why, but it's not like your father's black and white, you know, where it's sort of blurry and, you know, fuzzy.
Yeah.
This is crystal clear.
There's
And the lessons are eternal. They're human lessons, so it doesn't matter. The morals from obviously the crime like it did in the 30s doesn't exist anymore, but the morals are still you know, relevant.
And we can still recognize these things because we're human beings.
Right.
Stories at their core are about people.
Right.
They're human.
This is all about kids, about the love lost, you know.
Which we all have.
Yeah, the broken childhoods. Yeah. So unfortunately, that's still everywhere.
If you can look at a story and find the people inside, I think a story has failed when you can't care about anybody.
Yeah.
If you, as a story, even if I can find problems with the story and everything like that, if I believe in these people and I care about them, there's something worth telling in that.
Yeah, exploring. Science fiction does that so well.
It does.
You know, it's futuristic worlds, places none of us have been necessarily, and yet the stories still resonate because they're human stories.
Human beings are storytellers by nature. It's what we do.
Yeah. You picture the cavemen sitting around fires, you know.
But books are big. I think movies, I love books, but I love movies because it's a visual medium as well. I can read about it But
and it takes
here,
less time.
Yeah, it does take less time. And here I'm there, like I can see it happening,
Yeah.
and I can see other people's interpretation of what the human experience is, which is so powerful.
And you share it, but you're in the theater, and I love to watch things in the theater. Everyone's there feeling the same emotions, which is great. Whether it's comedy or a tearjerker or action, people kind of you hear sometimes in theaters where they are responding.
My favorite are my dad and I have a couple of times gone to re-releases of films that we really enjoy. Last year or 2 years ago by now maybe I took him to go see Superman.
The original one with
Christopher Reeve. Yeah. And which is a movie that I've grown more affectionate of as I've gotten older.
Oh, and you kind of have to see it on the big screen, I mean, like, it really...
Well, we'd watched
some
it.
films you have to see on the big screen.
We had watched it like 2 weeks prior, and Dad's like, do you really want to go to theaters and watch this again? He was sold by the opening credits. He's like, okay, yeah, we should have bought the tickets. Yeah, okay.
Because you can really, again, feel immersed, and the sound, everything.
Everyone in that room, though, was there with, like, Superman shirts on.
Wow.
Before the film started, there were some guys in the front who were talking about trivia, like the way that I like to like dump on my dad.
For a movie that's over 40 years old.
There's a community experience, and we're all here to watch this because we like this story. Right. Because there's something fun about it.
Right.
That
unifies. Not to get too maudlin, but I think sometimes people want to be like Superman. Boys and girls, you wish you could help people.
Sure.
Sometimes we feel almost frustrated that we can't, but you can in small ways. But his characters, obviously that's why it's so popular still.
We watch movies about people because that's what we know. And there's something to be said for that. Yeah. Even stories of people that we can't agree with their choices of, such as the case of this film.
Right, and those are little warnings to us or to our children or whoever, our friends,
something for us to think about.
On that path. Yeah. I don't know any gangsters or anybody, a budding gangster today.
Not personally.
Not like that, certainly, robbing banks necessarily. But again, the story, all these years later, still resonates.
I'm very glad I saw it.
Yeah, I'm glad you saw it too.
Yeah, so this is like episode 6, and I'm 2 for 6 for I haven't seen these before. So.
Yeah. That's good. There may be some we don't feel the same way about, or we both disappointed in.
Probably.
Yeah.
I've been disappointed by my fair share of movies.
Yeah, me too. They're not all gems.
No.
Just because they're classic doesn't make them great.
That's true. And sometimes, and this is important too, and I feel like I think we've said this before, we're probably going to say it again. Even if a movie is a classic, if it's on all the lists, and you sit down and watch it, maybe as a result of something we said, if you sit down and you watch it and you say, hey, I didn't like this, that's fine. There are plenty of movies that people say, this is great, and I sit down and I'm like, I hated this. Yep. This sucked, and I didn't care for it. Yeah. It happens. Because as much as there's a science to filmmaking, there's an art to it too. You're not going to like everything that everybody makes.
And it could even be just that day, that moment. You
just weren't feeling it.
I've seen films I didn't care for and watched them later. Maybe because I was older, more mature. I mentioned HUD, I think, before too. How as a kid, I liked the Paul Newman character. And I didn't like the Melvin Douglas character, the father. And I thought, just let HUD be. HUD's so cool. And then as an adult with kids,
perspective changes.
Yeah, of course. So I never would have predicted that. But, just seeing things from different perspectives.
There's a lot to be explored in terms of like your own personal preference with film. I think that's why it is a medium that appeals to so many people. Right, everyone can find something.
Of course, right.
And not everyone's going to agree. And that's part of the fun.
That's exactly. Yeah. It's kind of the beauty of it. There's so much to film discussions, which I love.
It's a pretty new art form.
It is, really. Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff devoted to it. Yeah. In the study of it. So
it's hard to believe, really, it only became a thing in the 20th century.
Yeah.
Really.
About 100 years old.
Yeah.
Which, in the grand scheme of human history, is a blink.
Right.
But
we'll have to do a silent film or two also at some point.
I have a rough time with silent films.
Do you?
I do.
It might be fun.
I like the Cabinet.
There's some great ones.
I like the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, but I don't. I'm Nosferatu, but honestly, I don't like many of the other ones. I get frustrated.
Really?
Yeah.
Not even like the Charlie Chaplin or Buster Keaton?
Not really. I've tried. Buster Keaton I can appreciate for what he's doing. Same thing for Charlie Chaplin. Yeah. Only Charlie Chaplin film I've sat through multiple times is The Great Dictator. Right, and it's his only sound one.
Yeah, right, exactly. Not quite a silent film. Yeah. And it has a lesson, obviously, more than some of his other films.
Yeah, it's definitely like, I think I saw that for like in a history class or something in high school.
Yeah. But I loved Douglas Fairbanks films as a kid. They were just, that was my guy.
Douglas Fairbanks Jr.
Yeah, it's funny, right? Well, that's the generation gap. There you go. That's funny.
But Anyway, when all said and done, I do think like it wasn't a one of a kind, but it started.
It did.
It inspired a lot.
Yeah.
And for that, I can appreciate it. I'm definitely going to come back to this at some point.
Yeah.
I definitely want to have this.
Highly recommend it. Mm-hmm. Anyone who hasn't seen it,
go out there and watch it.
If you have seen it, give it another view.
Yep.
It's not going to disappoint.
Thank you everybody so much for sitting here with us and for listening to us. If you enjoyed the episode, go ahead and drop a like, drop a comment. If you want to give us a suggestion of what to do for a future movie, please let us know. We're always looking for new stuff.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Again, major thank you. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you guys next time.